Good evening, everybody. Good to see you tonight. I'm Mike Murphy. I direct the Hank Center here at Loyola University of Chicago, and so welcome to our campus. And on behalf of CCIH, of the Hank Center, the Hank family, who make all these events possible with their generous endowment, an extra special welcome to you. On behalf of our staff, Gabby and Megan and Amy and Joe and Emily Kate is not here, we'd like to welcome you on that level as well. We hope you'll stop by our table and say hello. We have info about our last three events of the semester. All of them are excellent and worthy of your attention. We have a Catholic Studies minor event. They're looking at seeking after the whole, looking at the actual word Catholic and looking kind of at a global Catholicism. That's next week on the 10th. We have a day downtown at Water Tower with some friends from Leuven and other guests from Notre Dame and Northwestern looking at conversion narratives and modernist aesthetics. That's Monday, Tuesday, 16th and 17th. And then we have a very special day planned with Bishop McElroy from California, from San Diego, who is the keynote giving our second Cardinal Bernardine Common Cause lecture. And his talk is called Forming a Catholic Political Imagination in a Time of Cultural Crisis. So we hope to see you there for that one. And please be our guest. Welcome tonight to Habemus Papam +5. This is the third event marking, from the Hank Center, marking the Francis papacy. As the first Jesuit pope, we take this Francis's pontificate very seriously, and we are so pleased to honor this particular panel of experts. We're honored that they're here to offer their insights as we mark the 5th anniversary of Pope Francis's pontificate. There are so many look-backs happening around the country, and there's one even next week that Massimo is hosting at Villanova. And so here we are to make some sense. How clearly, speaking for myself, I recall March 13th, 2013, the white smoke traveled across the Atlantic and across Lake Michigan as we gathered in the Hank Center Library to listen, and I mean by we, it was CCIH staff, campus ministry friends, and 10 to 12 Jesuits. We were all together waiting, and we heard Cardinal Jean-Louis Touron announce Habemus Papam. We heard that. And then we heard some qualifying utterances, and then we heard the name, Jorge Mario Bergoglio. And then we heard Franciscum. And then the rumbles started, and the wheels were turning. Who is this Jorge? All of a sudden, he's a Jesuit. And believe you me, we were processing until a harmony of all voices said, a Jesuit! And here we were, a whole new kind of place to be. That was something, the first ever of many things. The first Pope from Latin America, the first from outside of Europe since the 8th century. As Pope Francis said, right on the day he was welcoming, or he was being welcomed, he said, a kind of a subtle hint to what might become a signature ecclesiology. He said, "It is the work of the conclave to name a bishop of Rome. It seems my brother cardinals have went to find him almost from the end of the earth." And then here we are. I do remember, as you probably do as well, the humility of Pope Francis. And I think of the word hummus, I think of dirt. And I think of him as saying, pray for me, asking the crowd to pray for him. And then I remember, as you might remember, the transformation as if before our very eyes of a person being imbued, engraced, enfleshed with the Holy Spirit as his ashen demeanor began to lighten up and he began to kind of animate some type of charisma that was always there but was there in a special way. You might remember all these things that became so amazingly, eccentric or media-worthy or something, but all these things from the small apartment to paying his own bills, to cooking for himself, to making the Fiat 500 the Pope-mobile, you're right, and you have making surprise visits and following people on Twitter. It was something quite amazing. All these things were natural and authentic with Pope Francis, and the word that became common to associate with him was the word pastoral, and sometimes that word is used to dismiss Pope Francis, and I'm sure we'll look at that tonight. But pastoral he is. The early days we remember as well that he visits Lampedusa and welcomes refugees, the first trip. He exhorts priests and religious to share the scent, the smell of the sheep. That is where Jesus is. That is where the gospel demands that we be. And that's how Christ is made present in the world. And we say, who is this man? We recall what he writes, Evangelii Gaudium, joy of the gospel, Laudato Si, an encyclical that will have impact for years to come. Amors Laetitia, an embattled piece in some ways from detractors, and one coming on Monday called Gaudete et Exsultate, Rejoice and Be Glad, a meditation on holiness, which excites me because it's obviously going to be about the Beatitudes to some degree. So there's many things to say, and I can go on forever, but you didn't come to hear me speak, and you've come to hear this excellent panel. So let me begin by introducing our keynote speaker, and we'll go from there. So it'll be Massimo will speak for about a half an hour, and then I'll introduce Melanie briefly, then Miguel after that briefly. They'll speak for 10 minutes each to respond, and then we're having a family conversation. Hope that you can jot some notes down and make a comment or questions, because we do want to have lots of dialogue here, because dialogue is a central charism of the Ignatian imagination and Ignatian spirituality. So without further ado, we want to welcome Dr. Massimo Fagioli of Villanova University. Go Ramblers. Congratulations to the Wildcats of Villanova, but I must say again, go Ramblers.